The greatest reason for life on Earth is the Sun, which stands about 150 million kilometers away from our planet. If the Sun were much closer to Earth, the intense heat would make life impossible, and if it were much farther away, extreme cold would do the same. So what would happen if, one day, the Sun suddenly disappeared from the universe? Let us take a look at what would follow. If the Sun were to vanish suddenly from our world in an instant, we would realize that something like this had happened only after 8 minutes. This is because sunlight takes 8 minutes to reach the Earth. As soon as those 8 minutes pass, darkness would slowly begin to spread across places where it was daytime. At the same time, in areas where it was already night, the stars would begin to shine with much greater brightness, and those regions would sink into deeper darkness. During this period, the moon's light would also gradually fade, and eventually the moon would disappear from our view forever, because the moon shines only by reflecting sunlight. The events that would unfold in the following hours are beyond what we can easily imagine. As sunlight disappears, the entire world would plunge into darkness. This would begin to severely affect plants, trees, and vegetation. Since photosynthesis would come to a halt, the amount of oxygen released by plants and trees would slowly decrease. Even if only slightly at first, this would begin to create difficulties for humans. However, at this stage, people would not yet realize what had truly happened to the Sun. Most would assume it was an eclipse and believe that the Sun would return within a few minutes. But as an hour passes and the reality slowly becomes clear, fear would grip people, panic would spread, and they would begin running around in chaos. Many would shout aloud that the end of the world had arrived. Although governments, having understood the situation to some extent, would try to calm and explain things to the public, they would soon reach a point where controlling the masses becomes impossible. Governments around the world would stand helpless. Gradually, power supplies across different parts of the world would fail. After that, severe cold would begin to take over. The cold would slowly start hunting the Earth. Even so, due to the temperature of the Earth's core, the planet would resist the cold for some time. At the same time, on the opposite side of the Earth where it had been night, people would continue sleeping, assuming that dawn had simply not arrived yet. Only after many hours, by checking the time and date, would people in those regions gain a faint understanding that something extraordinary had occurred. Meanwhile, scientists would be seriously studying the situation and continuously searching for a solution. As time moves forward, Earth's temperature would continue to drop. The cold would become the greatest enemy of all life on the planet. Within roughly 24 hours, Earth's temperature would fall to around 7 to 5 degrees Celsius. Since this is a sudden and drastic drop from the usual 25 degrees Celsius in which most life exists, many living beings would be severely affected, and many would begin to die from the cold. Hours and days would pass. By the time 7 days have gone by, Earth's temperature would drop to around -17 degrees Celsius, turning the planet into a frozen world. Unable to survive the extreme cold, many more life forms would perish. At this stage, countless trees and forests on Earth would be destroyed forever. Just like the land, the oceans would also be heavily affected by the cold. All the seas on Earth would eventually freeze. As a result, almost all fish living near the ocean surface, unable to withstand the extreme cold, would die. While the entire world remains frozen, there would still be small regions with heat, especially near volcanic areas. Apart from these places, the rest of the Earth would be covered in ice and completely frozen. By the time things reach this stage, scientists would have already begun implementing a solution in the form of shelters. They would be working seriously to construct shelters where humans could survive safely, with relatively warm temperatures, food, and oxygen. Many people would be relocated into these shelters. 1 month after the Sun's disappearance, conditions would continue to worsen. The temperature would drop further to around -30 degrees Celsius. Because of this extreme cold, all remaining vegetation on Earth that had managed to survive until then would vanish forever. Many humans would also die in this situation. At this point, only those living in volcanic regions and those inside specially constructed shelters would be able to survive. Even deep-sea fish that had never seen the sun, living at great depths, would be killed by the cold. So far, we have only discussed what would happen on Earth. But the disappearance of the sun would also cause massive changes in space. We know that it is because of the sun's enormous gravity that the planets revolve around it. When the sun and its gravity suddenly vanish, major disturbances would occur in the orbits of all the planets. The chances of planets colliding with each other would increase significantly. At the same time, there would be a possibility of asteroids, and even the moon, crashing into the Earth. Everything described so far sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie. But when we look at reality, the chances of the sun simply disappearing are extremely low. After about 5 billion years, the sun will turn into a massive red giant. By then, it is doubtful whether humans will still exist on Earth. Humanity may have already begun settling on other planets.
Subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching.